Well, Fox News learning the identity of the eighth person in that meeting with Donald Trump Jr. Our own John Roberts confirms that Ike Kavaladze was present in the Trump Tower meeting last June. And now Congress is looking into Jared Kushner's involvement with the Trump campaign's digital operations amid calls to have Kushner's security clearance revoked because of his failure to disclose several foreign contacts on his application.
It is very bothersome to me that Jared Kushner has forgotten not once, not twice, but 3 times to put down this information. But again, we see this pattern. General Flynn failed to put down information. He got fired. The Attorney General failed to disclose information. He had to recuse himself.
And Jared Kushner, of course, obviously also being part of that meeting with Donald Trump Jr. So let's bring in our legal panel, Brian Claypool, who is a criminal defense attorney and former head county prosecutor, and criminal defense attorney Bob Bianchi. Thank you both for joining us.
Sure.
So, Bob, I will start with you. Should Jared Kushner have his security clearances revoked?
Well, listen, we have a lot to go with respect to this information. Something as far as the timeline that impresses me and why I would say no at this point is that when he first filled it out with the no information with regard to contacts with foreign nationals, the very next day his lawyers, with their continuing obligation to release information, said that that form needs to be amended. We want to let you know. They then amended it with 100 names, and then afterwards, 2 days before the FBI was going to interview him, they amended it with this meeting that we've been discussing so much. So this is not a political decision, it's a legal one. As a prosecutor, you cannot prosecute somebody for falsifying a document simply because that they were negligent or failed to disclose it. But I'm very impressed with the idea that his team said from the very beginning, a day after it was submitted, we're here to amend this document. Now, I know there's lots of other data points out there that are troubling, like the backdoor Russian communication, so on, but that has nothing to do with whether he falsified his security clearance application.
So, yeah, what happened, Brian, originally, apparently they said it was sent prematurely, so they had to amend it. Not only did he not leave or include the foreign contacts, he also got the dates wrong for his graduate degree. Also, his father-in-law's address was wrong. So clearly there were some problems with the original form that was submitted. So they had to submit another one, but they also submitted it yet again, I think, 3 times total, Brian?
Heather, a few words that come to my mind when I hear the Jared Kushner story: hypocrisy, loud bark, and no bite. And what I mean by that is we have a former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, who ran for president, who clearly had classified information on a personal server. She wasn't even prosecuted. She wasn't even questioned under oath by former FBI Director Comey. Secondly, we have former FBI Director Comey, who released classified data to a person without government clearance. He hasn't even been investigated yet. And now we have Jared Kushner being put on the hot seat and being hung for something that I think clearly does not amount to him having to have his security clearance removed. And here's why, quickly. Number one, he didn't do anything intentionally to mislead anybody. And that's borne out by the fact that, as Bob said, he cleared everything up. And as you said, he was transparent after that. And the second part of that is you have to prove that he intentionally omitted a material fact. And everything I'm hearing up to now, Heather, does not amount to a material fact. What this is President Trump his family is used to the private sector. Give his family a chance to adjust to the political and public sector and all the myriad of regulations that they must comply with.
But eventually, though, Bob, will this inexperience, because there is a lot for them to learn in terms of dealing with politics versus dealing in the business world, will this inexperience get them in trouble legally? And is that a valid excuse to say, well, I'm inexperienced at this?
Well, I've said this before with the Hillary Clinton email situation, and I'll say it with this: prosecutors don't like to prosecute people for technical violations of the law that may have tripped up and done something that was negligent, or that they weren't paying attention, as some of their staffers did. But there are a lot of data points here for the U.S. Attorney's Office to be looking at. Some very suspicious and unusual activity that has occurred. They're going to try to connect those dots. The backdoor communications, like I said, the financial dealings, maybe the failure to fill out this form is innocent, not innocent. There's lots of things they can look at. But when it comes down to this form, I don't think that we should be comparing people like Hillary Clinton and this investigation versus that. I hated that as a prosecutor. prosecutor. When defense lawyers would come in and say, well, why did you do this on this case and you didn't do it on that case? It's apples and oranges.
But how many times, this is my question though, how many times do you get to add on to this list? Because the first time around where Jared Kushner, added all of the foreign contacts, he didn't include this latest meeting with Donald Trump Jr. We now know the 8th person that was involved in that meeting. Will we now find out that when he did include that the third time, that perhaps he didn't include this 8th person who was involved in the meeting? So they'll have to, make another change.
Well, this is exactly, Heather, the problem, and you hit right on the head of where the investigators are going to look. They are going to look to see whether or not the failure to identify this meeting, which could be a pivotal meeting in the overall investigation, was done. How was it done? How was the data being collected? Why did it come forward so late? Because if it was being done or transparent, quote unquote, because people knew about it and they knew it was going to get out, that's a big problem for him.
Yeah.
If it was an innocent failure and they were going like 2 days, we got to go see the FBI, let's scour these emails, oopsie, we made a little mistake here. Now remember, the law requires that it has to be somebody that has constant contact and significant relationships with these individuals to report it. So they may have been erring on the side of caution, which could be very possible because that FBI interview is about to occur, or it could be because they knew, like with the Donald Trump Jr. scenario, something was about to come out. And if the investigators find out it was for the latter reason, it was because that they knew it was going to come out and then they decided to disclose it, that's a huge problem.
Well, we do know at this point that it is being investigated. So this editorial in the Wall Street Journal says, be transparent, trust in the American people, and put it all out there and see what happens. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.